What's up guys, Pete here. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly the typical product life cycle for an Amazon product from day 1 all the way up to day 90 or 120 or so. And I'm going to show you the reality of this business and what it really takes and the cash flow that is involved in really operating this business. Now, I think a lot of people have misconceptions when it comes to Amazon FBA or any online business for that matter. And they think that they can start making a ton of money in a short period of time. They think they can start buying new cars, new houses, new Rolexes, new this and that, within 30 days and they're going to be a millionaire. And I'm just here to show you that this business right here, the Amazon FBA business, is a long-term play. It's a long-term business, and that's not to say it's a bad business. It's a great business, but it is a longer-term business. You have to be in this for the long haul. This is not a get-rich-quick type of business, and you just have to approach it that way from day one, or else you're going to be setting yourself up for some failure. So the first thing that you have to really understand is there's a massive difference between revenue and profit. And profit is not easy to come by in private label physical products businesses in the early days. And that's completely normal. That shouldn't worry you or panic you. That is just how the business model is set up. There are, of course, many things that you can do to increase your profits in a shorter period of time and help this process along, which I will be getting into in this video. But for now, I just want to give you the exact sort of life cycle of what happens on day one from picking your product all the way up to way later on down the road, so you can kind of get an accurate, rough roadmap of what you can expect for your product. All right, guys, so here's the typical cycle of an Amazon FBA product. All right, you have your product, you place your 30% order down with your supplier. So whether you're working on Alibaba or DHgate or any other of the Chinese supplier online platforms, the typical way of doing business is you place 30% of the total order down initially. 30 days later, on average, it takes 30 days to get your product manufactured. So after the 30 days, when your product is ready to ship out, you pay the remaining 70% balance as well as the extra cost of shipping. So that's typically how the cycle works. And so let's just say for this example, your total cost for your entire order is $4,000. So on day one, you're going to have to pay $1,200 up front. That's 30%. And I'm also going to disregard the one-time expenses like images, customs fees, inspections fees, wire fees, any sort of softwares you're paying for. Maybe you use a software like Helium 10 to do product research. I'm discounting all those just for the simplicity of this video. Okay, so now it is time to list. You have 30 days. It's kind of an awkward 30-day grace period, if you will, from when you place that 30% down to where you kind of have 30 days to work with. And this is the time where you want to be doing a lot of research for your product. Don't just take this as a vacation. This is where you want to be doing a lot of research for your product, developing a marketing strategy, and you want to be creating the listing for the product, which involves all the keyword research and all that kind of stuff. So you need to list the product. Okay, you need to first list it on Amazon, even though you have zero inventory, right? You can still list the product. You need to list the product on Amazon in order to actually create the FBA shipping labels and send the inventory into the warehouse. So after 30 days is up and your product is already listed on Amazon, you have to pay the remaining 70% balance, which in our case is $2,800 plus $1,000 for shipping. You're down $5K at this point and you haven't made a sale. So in the first 30 days, you're down $5K. Now it's time to start your launch promotion, and let's say you've determined that you have to give away 200 units, and the total FBA fees per unit sold are $6.95. I am discounting the cost of goods sold as far as your product cost because you've already paid for the product, and I don't like to add in that cost a second time because you've already paid for these products. And this is of course also taking into account that you're literally giving away these products for free. Let's say if you were giving away these products at like 90%, yeah, you'd make like $1 or $2 per sale. But in this case, I'm just saying that we're giving away these products for 100% free. So you are essentially just out the FBA fee and you're not making any other profit. I hope that makes sense, but you guys can calculate these numbers any way you want. This is how I do it. So we're down $695 times 200, and that equals $1,390. So we're down an additional $1,390 on top of the $5K at this point for our launch promotion. So now we're down $63.90, and we haven't even made an organic sale yet. What do we need to do now though to ensure that we do not run out of stock for this first order? We need to reorder. We need to place another 30% down for that second order, which is $1,200. And so now at this point we're down about $75.90, and we need to start making organic sales and sponsored ad sales for around a net profit of around 30%, okay, in total. So let's say you sell 200 units at a 30% margin over the next 30 days. And those 200 units have a sale price of $24.99, and that equals out to $49.98. And let's take 30% of $49.98 because remember, we're doing this at a 30% margin on average. So we're making about $1,500 in net profit for those 200 unit sales. Okay, so at this point, you're only down $6,090, but the 30-day period is up for that second order, and now you got to pay the remaining 70% plus shipping. So that's another $2,800 plus 1,000 shipping. So guys, do you see how this works? This is the reality of this business. This is the reality of any private label physical product business, essentially. I know this may seem grim here, but remember, this is an example. I just want to show you really how this works in the real world and why I can't stand it when I see people teaching that you can start this business for like $200 or you can start this business for $1,000. It doesn't work like that. And if you truly do start the business for, $500 or $1,000 or even $2,000, guys, you're setting yourself up for total failure, as you can see by this. If you really want to execute everything and do it correctly, as I'm showing you in these slides, it is impossible for you to start out with that small of a budget. It just cannot work. What can you do to increase the likelihood and make this whole journey, this cycle, a little bit smoother? Well, I have developed something called the Mimic system, which I highlighted in one of my YouTube videos, and I believe it's well worth your time. I believe the title of the YouTube video is Debating FBA Launch Strategies. I believe that's the title of the video. I didn't make it too long ago. Should be able to find it in the pretty recent videos that I've made. So I highly suggest you to give that video a watch. It covers the Mimic system. I also cover the Mimic system in depth within my course if you're interested in that. But let's just kind of wrap this up. Well, I can't stress to you how important the ROI and profit margin is for your product. This is going to speed up this positive cash flow process so much better if you have a high ROI, high profit margin product. I know that goes without saying, and that's an obvious statement, but I think it really hits home a little bit harder when you see the evidence of the scenario that I just laid out for you. You can kind of see the importance a little bit more clearly. Also, don't panic. Okay, this process is normal. This is just how the business works. This is what every single FBA seller has to deal with in the early stages of their business, guys. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's not that you have to be okay with taking some loss up front. That is just the nature of starting any new business venture. The realistic goal that I want you guys to give yourselves is, especially if you have limited funds, is do not spread yourself too thin by reinvesting into new products, product number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, you got to first make sure that initial product is actually turning a profit. And the realistic goal to start turning a profit, guys, the goal that I want you to set in your head is 90 to 120 days. That's the realistic goal in the real world of what you can expect. Can you do it sooner? You can. Can it take longer? Yes, it can. There's many factors that depend on that, such as obviously the ROI of the product you pick, how efficiently you're able to launch that product, and all sorts of things like that. How expensive is your product to actually source? How many units are you sourcing? That's all going to drastically affect those numbers. The shipping costs. Are there customs fees? Are there extra fees for the product? Many things like that. So you guys have to know your numbers. So what is the best way to execute positive cash flow for your FBA business? Well, I've been around the block more than once, guys. I've developed a system to where I believe it is the most efficient way to just hammer home this process in the most efficient way possible. And I mentioned it already. It's called the Mimic system. So these are other things. These are about my top 8 recommendations, I would say, for how you can make this process smoother for you. High profit margin, high ROI products, evergreen products, not seasonal, okay? Products that sell well 365 days a year, not overly competitive, and where it's not too expensive to launch the product and get yourself into the market, not too competitive to where the sponsored ads bid prices are so high and you're competing against such massive sellers that, number one, it's incredibly expensive to bid on the keywords, and number two, they're not going to convert as well. So that's really important, guys, is not to go after the most competitive products. Competition is not a bad thing. In fact, I stress competition as being a pretty good thing generally in most scenarios, but there's certainly a fine line, and I highly suggest that you don't go after the most competitive unless you have a massive operating budget to work with. So number 5 is using the Mimic system taught on YouTube. Again, Debating FBA Launch Strategies. I believe that is the video to watch, as well as in my course. in more depth. So you also want to focus heavily on making your first product profitable before investing into product number 2, as evidenced by the scenario that I just laid out. You want to really try to avoid running out of stock. Sometimes this is not always the easiest thing to do, but again, that's another thing that's taught within the Mimic system, is we kind of have the most efficient way of doing this without running out of stock. Watch it for free on YouTube. It's right there for you to see. I can't stress this enough. Know your numbers. Do not be playing blind archery like this woman here. She seems to be having a good time, guys, but I'm telling you what, it doesn't really apply to us, to the Amazon business. You do not want to be like this girl right here. You have to really dial in the dollars and cents. That kind of goes back to what I've been saying all along, especially in the last few videos that I've made. Number 1 is learning how to sell on Amazon. Number 2 is you actually have to know how to run a business. You have to know how to run an e-commerce business. You have to understand cash flow. You have to understand all these other nuances that it involves in running a business, guys. So that's why I'm always stressing to you, you cannot approach this as a side hustle. You can't do it. So I hope this video was super informative and maybe a bit eye-opening for some of you guys. And again, all I'm trying to do on this channel is educate you to the best of my possible ability by giving you just how it is in the real world with no sugarcoating and no BS. If you guys like this video, if you want to see more videos, please subscribe to this channel, like this video. I would really appreciate that. And please feel free to drop a comment below with anything that you want to add to this, or comment, or if you have any video suggestions that you would like me to cover in the future, please drop those comments below as well, and I'll be more than happy to dive in and do that for you. So again, my name is Pete. Have an amazing day, guys, and I'll talk to you later.